Hi, my name is Mike Bradley, and to my left is Corey Taylor. I'm a retired California police officer of 26 years. Uh, Corey and I are childhood friends. We both grew up together in Canton, Ohio, and we are looking forward to giving you some basic do's and don'ts of what to do if you ever get pulled over by police. So stick around for this conversation.
Hey, good evening again. This is Corey Taylor. Like Mike said, I'm a former Virginia State Trooper. I was a state trooper for 7 years, and I'm also a retired Navy Chief Petty Officer with 20 plus years of service. And together, we are the Brothas-in-law. All right. And like Mike said, we're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of a traffic stop and some other policing issues that we think are relevant to our communities. So the purpose of the channel is bring awareness into the communities on how to interact with law enforcement during a traffic stop to ensure that your stop with police goes safely for you and them. All right. So join us every Thursday. We'll be coming out with a new video talking about policing and traffic stops. So like and share and subscribe to our channel so that you stay up to date on all our videos. You can also hit us up on Facebook. At Corey Taylor and Michael Bradley. We're in current process working on setting up a Facebook page for the Brothas-in-law to get that so you can go on there and communicate with us and tell us what you like. And if you have any suggestions on a topic you would like for us to talk about, hey, hit us up, man. We'll work that into one of our upcoming videos. All right. So without further ado, and this is going to be totally off the script. We ain't doing no script. This is just two brothers, former police officers, and bringing our law enforcement experiences and our military experiences to the table to start this discussion of policing in our communities and what we can do as a community to come together as one to try to make a difference and try to bring a lot of these issues.
Take that fear away.
Take that fear away
from being contacted by the police.
That's right. That's right.
So you see those flashing lights. You see those flashing lights behind you. You're on a nice Sunday drive, feeling comfortable, and all of a sudden, whoop whoop. You see that? What do you do? So the first thing is like we've been trying to say on here a lot is don't panic. It's no big deal. You're getting pulled over. You did something. You might know what you did. You might not know what you did. That's okay. The first thing is what we're getting ready to tell you to do is applies all across the board, no matter what kind of officer you encounter. Okay.
That's right.
So don't panic and pull over to the far right-hand side of the roadway as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean that's key. That's key because the
a lot of people might have the questions of, well, do I pull into a parking lot or should I pull over on the side of the road? And I always tell them my personal preference is to pull over on the side of the road. Try not to go into a parking lot, although there may be some circumstances where going to a parking lot may not be a bad idea. But as an officer, the way I used to think of that is if you pull into a parking lot, now you got a whole bunch of people walking around trying to get to and from their cars or trying to get in and out of parking spaces, and we cause more of a congestion inside a parking lot. So that's why I prefer people to just pull over on the right side of the road.
And yeah, like I said, for on the interstate is the same way. You don't want to stop in the lane to travel, especially during rush hour, because you just wait for an accident to happen. And so that's a main reason why you want to get off the shoulder. Now, keep in mind, one of the most important things, when those lights come on, you need to understand that at that moment, until the officer is done and releases you, they are responsible for your safety. All right. And also they're responsible for their own safety. All right. And so that's kind of the mindset of a police officer. It's you want to handle the situation, because at the end of the day, it's you're gonna either get warned, get a summons, and be on your way. All right. So
Right.
that's important for you to get off to the shoulder as quickly as possible. And why we say quickly as possible, because if you just going down the road and thinking, well, I'm but like 3.5 miles from the house, I'm just gonna go all the way to the house. No, that ain't a good idea. Because you go a bit too far, I'm gonna make the call. Hey, I'm in a pursuit. Vehicle failed to stop. All right, for whatever the reason is, and then you're gonna have all the other troopers or officers coming to my location, because they don't know. All they know right at this point that he's in a pursuit. Vehicle failed to stop. All right, so you don't want to do that. So get over to the right shoulder as quickly as possible. All right. So now we know that getting to the right shoulder is key. When you get them stopped, Mike, what are you looking for, and why does it take you so long to get up to the vehicle? Because that's a common question I know have gotten, and I know you've gotten too. So what is your response to that?
Right. Well, yeah, that's a good question, because sometimes, like you say, for instance, let me just to back up just a slight bit. When I may have been following you for a minute before I actually hit the lights to pull you over. And the only reason why I might have done that is maybe I don't want to pull you over in the spot where I first saw you. I might want to wait. Maybe I know of a safer place a little bit further down the road that I might follow you until you get to that place, and then I might light you up and pull you over. So there's many reasons for that. Sometimes if I'm still sitting in the car, it's taking me a moment to get out of the car before I approach your car. I could be doing a lot of things. Number one, I could be running your plates or listen. Maybe something came back on your plate from our dispatcher that I'm trying to hear what's going on with it. For instance, in our agency, it was routine when we were about to go on a traffic stop. Before we actually make the stop, we already gave our location of the stop and your license plate to our dispatchers before we even make the stop, most of the time. You see what I'm saying? And sometimes there can be some information that might come back that's important that our dispatchers might feel that we need to know before we actually go up and contact you. You might have a warrant associated with your plate. The car might come back as stolen, or the plate might come back as stolen. Or it could be something where a lot of times what we call cold plates, where people put the wrong plate on the car. And we can get into reasons why people do that on another discussion. But that could be, these are all red flags, you know what I'm saying, that we look for, that it might take us a moment before we even contact you, before we decide how we're going to contact you. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But just let me get back on track. Once we got you stopped, What's important is, don't be fumbling around in your car too much before the officer gets up there. Don't be reaching down below, trying to fumble around to find this and that. Just sit still, wait until the officer comes up and approaches your doorway. Okay. And a lot of times people got tinted windows nowadays. That's a safety issue because officers can't see inside the car, especially at nighttime. So when they say, well, why do you shine those bright lights all in my car? Well, that's because those bright lights allow you to see inside the car. It's for safety reasons.
Right.
It's not necessarily to blind you and make you uncomfortable. Not necessarily. Okay. Right. It is to light up your car so that we can see everything that's inside. We want to see if there might be somebody pointing a gun at us if we make that stop. That's all.
Yeah, that'd be kind of nice to know who's in the back seat and what's all that sudden movement going on. So again, because the number one responsibility is safety, not only for the citizen, but for the police officer as well. And so for me, as you're doing those same things, those are the same things that we would look forward to and listen to when we put it into our system in the computer. sit there and wait and see what you get. Now that always doesn't happen that way, but that's what the officer should be doing. And that's the reason behind why it could take so long. Now, for me, when I make my approach up to the vehicle, the first thing that we were always trained to do is identify yourself. For example, I would say, my name is Trooper Taylor with the Virginia State Police. May I see your driver's license registration, please? And they'll give it to you. Now, there's two things that I think are very important. And one is more of a respectful, common courtesy thing. One, turn your radio down when we come up, because I have to yell not only over your music, but I also have to raise the level of my voice a little bit because I have to talk over the traffic as well. So if you got your radio blasting, and I got to talk over the radio and the traffic so you can hear me. So it's not that the trooper will be yelling at you, but he's got to talk loud enough so that you are listening to what he has or she has to say to you. And second, put your cigarette out. And not only is it just a respectful thing, but it's also a safety issue, right? Because you're not thinking about it, but that cigarette could be a weapon.
Sure.
Especially if you're on the interstate and you can flick that cigarette butt at me. I jump and react. I jump and step back too far. I end up in the lane of travel and I get hit. So it may not.
Right. Something as small as that. People don't think of that. A cigarette is something small and minor that people don't think of. Well, why should I have to put my cigarette out? It's just a safety issue. Officers tend to think 2 steps ahead.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's not a problem really if you're smoking it, but it could be a problem if you decide to flick it in my face. You see what I'm saying? Right. So, it's just minor courtesy, like you said.
Right.
And safety.
And safety, because like I said, at the end of the day, it's all about safety for everybody. Officer is responsible for everybody's safety. So after I had that identification, and that's the reason why we ask for that first before we tell you why, we're pulling you over. And they're going to tell you why they're pulling you over. If they don't, it's not breaking the law, but it's professionalism that they're going to tell you why they pulled you over. You have the right and the reason to know why you're being pulled over, why you're being stopped. All right. Now, the reason why we had that identification card. So, if you did something or you're something in the vehicle you don't want that officer to see, or you may have a warrant for your arrest or whatever, and you decide to run off. Well, you know what? We had that driver's license and registration, so there's no need of running.
Could always come back and get you later.
Could always come back and get you later. Go down to the magistrate's office and take it and swear out a warrant and come get you. Right?
Yep.
Even find out where you work and come to your job and get you. We're gonna get you. All right. So just politely give your driver's license and registration over to the officer, and they're gonna tell you why they stopped you once they've obtained your driver's license. Now, since we're talking about driving, if the driver is with somebody, there's passengers in the vehicles, passengers need to understand that they too are detained until after the stop.
That's a good point. That's a good point, because a lot of times you hear citizens that are passengers that say, well, you didn't stop me, you stopping the driver for what they did.
Right.
But in the state of California, all the occupants of the vehicle of a traffic stop are being detained and under the control of the officer.
Right.
Now, we can get into, which I'm sure we will at a later time, but we can get into the whole issue of identification, who is required to provide identification during a traffic stop for different reasons. We can get into that later.
But
I think the important message here is that passengers shouldn't automatically feel that they can just jump out of the car and continue on down the road.
That's right. That's right.
Because they can't. They are also being stopped as well.
Right.
You know.
And so now that we got the identification. Well, let me back up first. Now we understand now what to do once the lights come on. You can get to that right shoulder as safely as possible. Present the identification. No sudden movement. I mean, if you want to go ahead and sit there with your hands on the steering wheel, that's perfect. Always keep your hands visible where the officer can see them. So we've established that. Now we also established that the officer has told you why they're pulling you over. And keep in mind, we already know some of you going to fire back at us and say, well, I got stopped back in, however many years ago, and he didn't do this and do that. Listen, we're not here to Monday morning quarterback any other police officer. What we're telling you is what Mike and I have gone through in our experiences in law enforcement. And these are the things that we have come across that we think will benefit the citizens in making sure that they stay safe, that you stay safe. Now, if the police officer has an attitude, whatever case may be, so what? At the end of the day, you make sure you walk away. And as long as
that's what it's about. That's what it's about.
And as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do, put your cigarette out, turn your radio down, have your driver's license, registration, you hit all these wickets, you're taking power away from the officer to do something stupid. Right? Because you're staying calm. Right? We talked about that a little bit earlier, the acronym CALM. You're complying, you're answering questions, you're listening, and then you're going to get to move on. Whether you get a ticket or not, you get to move on. And like I think, Mike, you've spoke on a few minutes ago, holding court is not what you do on the side of the road. And
we don't have time for that.
We don't have time for that.
So we can argue all day about whether or not, for instance, you ran the stop sign. And officers, they are not there to argue with you on the street. If I stopped you for running the stop sign, and I use stop sign as a loose example, but if I stopped you for running the stop sign, I already convinced myself that you didn't stop at the stop sign. I saw what happened. So you arguing with me is not going to change my thing. Because look, if all you're doing is wasting time. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Again, if I made up my mind, a lot of times I haven't made up my mind if I'm gonna give you a ticket yet. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you say, I might just give you a warning, and say don't do it again and send you on down the road.
Right.
A lot of times, how that citizen communicates with me, it can dictate whether or not they actually get a ticket. And I can tell you straight up, if you're gonna have a bad attitude with me and say I didn't run the stop sign and be argumentative, you are 99.9% of the time, I'm going to give you a ticket.
You're going to get a ticket. That's right.
If you're going to argue with me and don't, it is what it is, I might as well just give you a ticket. You can argue it in court.
Yeah, you can argue with the judge.
Your chance to argue in court, but on the street is not where you want to do that. We don't have time to argue with you about a violation. That's why you go to court.
That's why you go to court.
And there's been plenty of times I've been to traffic court 100 times.
Yeah.
Been to traffic court 100 times, 100 plus. Okay. Yeah. And there have been some traffic courts that I've lost. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter to me. Win or lose court doesn't matter to me. I don't it just doesn't, it has no bearing on me. So, it doesn't pay to argue with an officer on a traffic stop.
No.
Now we talked about communication skills, though.
Yeah.
Real quick, I don't want to come across as if it's all on the citizen to do A, B, C, and D. You see what I'm saying? It's on the citizen to do what is needed by what the officer is asking you to do. That's on the citizen. Mm-hmm. Right. But every officer should know too, how I talk to somebody is going to reflect how they talk to me in most cases. Right. Now we run across some citizens that's some straight up asses. You see what I'm saying? I run across that no matter how you communicate with them. You see what I'm saying? But in general, as an officer, I always thought it was professional to communicate with them the same way you would want them to communicate with you. You see what I'm saying?
There you go.
like you say, officers will go through emotional roller coasters through a 8 or 10 hour shift.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned something before. We could be just left a dead body call, you know, or a child molestation call right before we did that traffic stop. You see what I'm saying? So our emotions are all over the place. I may not be as pleasant on some traffic stop as I may have been on some others.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, and you know, like I said, you know, it has to be that two-way street. You got to kind of, if that officer is coming up to you and he may seem like he's a butthole, whatever, you got to kind of give him a grain of salt. Say, okay, what did he or she just go through, right? Because like we were talking before, you know, I mean, this was an 8-hour shift for me. You know, you're getting drugs and guns off the street, and then next thing you know, you're working a crash. You and your shift partner pulling the guy up out of the car because he went off the road and hit the ditch, and you're doing CPR on him the side of the road, and he ends up, you know, dying, and then you have to go do that death notification. Right.
Something like that to get your emotions all over the place.
And then you end up still having to do your job of a traffic stop. But at the end of the day, we're still human too. You know, we have emotions. So
and keep in mind that most citizens got to understand that on a typical day of a patrol officer, you have a lot of different things you'll be doing. I mean, we're responsible for answering calls for service, you know, in addition to traffic stops. So for instance, in the agency I worked in, our main focus of any particular day was usually traffic enforcement. That's because we weren't going from call to call to call all day long. Sometimes we were, sometimes we weren't. You see what I'm saying? But what's expected of you is when you're not handling a call for service, you're doing traffic enforcement or some kind of traffic enforcement. You see what I'm saying? That's probably the most common thing that officers do.
Yeah.
But getting back.
Yeah,
I know
back. So now we got to stop. We got to stop. So now here's the thing, and I'm gonna share a story with this one. Here is when you the officer says,
how much time we got? How much time?
We good. So when the officer says, sit tight, I'll be right back. All right. He or she's gonna go back to the patrol car. They're gonna start filling out some paperwork, a summons for you or a ticket. They come back up to your vehicle and then they explain it to you and give it to you and tell you to sign here. And you get to the point where the citizen then doesn't want to sign the summons. And they said, well, the guy I was talking to the other day said, hey, well, so what happens, you know, if somebody doesn't want to sign? I said, well, you're going to jail. You have to sign the summons. I mean, you can refuse it. Well, you can refuse it, but you're going to go to the magistrate and you're going to, you know, explain to the magistrate why you refuse to sign the summons. You know,
people need to understand that when you have that ticket, by signing that ticket is not an admission of guilt.
It's no admission of guilt.
You're not saying that I agree with what the officer is saying. That's not what signing the ticket is for. Signing the ticket is nothing more than a promise to appear in court.
A promise to appear.
A promise to take care of what you are being accused of. Now, you can have your day in court and argue it, and there are things that you can do to settle that, whether you want to just pay a fine and let it go, or you want to go to court and argue it. But signing that ticket is you're just telling an officer that, hey, I'm not ignoring what you're saying I did. I am going to sign this and take care of it, whether I'm going to appear in court or not. If you don't sign that ticket, you got to look at it as like if I didn't get a receipt from something I paid for, and somebody can come back and say, well, you never came and got this. You never bought this. You know what I'm saying? Well, that's kind of like the same thing of not signing the ticket. If you don't sign the ticket, how can you take care of what I'm accusing you of taking care of? You see what I'm saying? So you definitely got to sign the ticket. In California, if you don't sign the ticket in our agency, the first thing we usually did was we had the supervisor come to the scene. Because we know that if you don't sign the ticket, we got to take you to jail. Well, I'm not trying to waste time out of my day to take you to jail for a ticket. You see what I'm saying? For something as simple as signing a ticket, that's a waste of time. So we got to call a supervisor out and try to convince them this is why you need to sign a ticket. Now, in my personal experience, I've definitely gotten to the point where we had to really explain to the driver, look, you need to sign this or you're going to have to go to jail. I've never had one where it actually turned into me taking him to jail for that reason, fortunately. But it certainly came close. You know what I'm saying? So people just need to be calm.
Yeah,
don't get upset when they say sign the ticket.
Right.
Just sign the ticket, and then you can get on down the road.
Yeah, and for me it was, a gentleman was I explained the ticket to him and everything, and it was like, hey, need you to sign right here. And then, and I knew what he was trying to do. I mean, he had his wife with him, and he had, I believe it was in-laws with him in the back. And he kind of want to try to play that tough guy role. Well, what happens if I don't want to sign it? You know what? State police officers, we're not going to play around with you. As soon as you utter those words out your mouth, putting the clipboard down on the ground, and I start opening that door and start, whoop, you coming with me. You refusing to sign the summons. And, he's like, oh, well, I'll sign it. I was just asking the question. Listen, I don't have time for that. Troopers don't have time for that on the side of the road. All right. You like you said, you made aware of it. You was already told that it's not an admission of guilt. And you just sign it as a promise that you're going to either show up to court and testify against it, dispute it, or you're going to pay the fine. That's it. I mean, we don't have time to go in all this. And, Bravo Zulu to his wife, good job to his wife, was just telling him to, shut up and stop giving me a hard time and just sign the doggone ticket. And he signed it. He didn't sign it. He signed it. I mean, but you don't have time for that.
No, you don't.
You don't have time for that. And that's why I'm saying, that's why you're going to be hearing us on this channel. Keep talking about staying calm, comply, answer the questions, listen, and move on. See, he was about to move on, but he was about to move on to another place. And that was going to be to lockup. Right? Your objective is moving on is going about your business, whatever journey you were already on that you got stopped in the process of, right? So that's very important. Just like you said, just sign it. So
traffic stops can be the most, although they can be the most dangerous things that officers do.
Oh yeah.
They also can be the most routine, and as long as the citizen goes with the program and does what is asked of them, it will go smooth.
Yeah.
When I make traffic stops, I'm trying to handle my business with you and move you on. Now, if there's something that I need to take you to jail for, okay, we'll do that. You see what I'm saying? I know we talked about this a little bit ago, but there's a lot when we're making traffic stops. We also don't just have a mind frame of I'm just going to enforce this traffic violation to move on, because people need to understand ultimately an officer's job is to find crime. Traffic stops are one of those ways that you can contact the community and find crime.
Right.
So we talked about answer questions. The reason why officers might be asking you questions is they're just trying to dig to make sure everything adds up. Are you just a simple citizen traveling down the road, or are you actually somebody who's smuggling some drugs in your car? Or did you just commit a crime and you just passing through or whatever? And, if you really ain't got nothing to hide and you answering questions and everything, there's nothing for the officer to dig at. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
There's nothing there. So don't be offended, though, when officers are asking you questions that maybe you feel don't have nothing to do with your traffic stop. Common questions are where you headed, where you coming from. Do you have to answer those questions? In many situations, you don't. No. You only have to answer basic questions like, do you have a driver's license? Do you know what you did? You can just, which is fine. Hey, that's fine. But all I'm saying is, if officers ask you that question, it's just simple investigative questions that they just normally do. It's got nothing to do with you personally. It's just, are they looking for something more? Could there be something more there in a traffic stop? You see what I'm saying? Than just this person running a stop sign. A lot of times it could. I can't tell you how many times we've had traffic stops that resulted in arrests for unrelated things. You know, or we get something. I've had times when I've stopped somebody and we've had thefts from the mall or something that just occurred, and I didn't know that this vehicle was involved because the information didn't come out right away, and suddenly now I got this license plate of the person that I'm stopping, and here they are. This is the vehicle that was involved in a theft at the mall 15, 20 minutes ago.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So, don't get upset. Officer's job is to find crime, traffic enforcement. If they're going to write you a ticket, they're going to write you a ticket. If they're not, they're not. Most of the time, I don't see who I'm stopping until I actually walk up onto the window. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Sometimes I haven't made up my mind if I'm going to give you a ticket or give you a warning. But as we always said, just stay calm.
Just stay calm.
Answer questions, listen, so
and
you
move
can
on. Move on. and like I said, I think this is great. Talking about this again, this is just to bring awareness to the communities and to former Black police officers, state trooper and a city police officer on two separate coasts, the East Coast and the West Coast, but from the same hometown of Canton, Ohio, coming together and bringing our experience and military experience to the table to start this conversation in the homes across the nation. So what we want them to take away with, we're gonna wrap it up here. Stay calm. Stay calm.
Stay calm. That's it.
Comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. Right. So if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit us up on Facebook. Leave us a comment and a suggestion if there's a particular topic you would like for us to discuss. We're looking forward to engaging with you all. And we want the biggest thing is we want change, right? Police aren't going anywhere. You won't hear Mike and I talk about defund the police. We need police, right? We need police.
And just to piggyback on that, we are police supporters. I did the job for 26 years, so of course I'm a police supporter. And like Corey was saying, we just want to make sure. I want to take that fear away.
The fear away.
People who, if they're listening to the media or listening to things, are there bad cops out there? Sure. There's bad cops out there, just like anything else, unfortunately. Okay, there's bad cops out there, but there are a lot of good cops out there, way more. And when I see bad cops, I'll check them. If I see that in my face when I was working as an officer, I would have checked that, no problem. So that's not it. But the main message is you don't have to be afraid of the police department. You're gonna always need the police. They're gonna always be there. They're gonna come when you call. Okay, it is a level of service, whether you like that level of service or not. That's an argument we could have, whether you felt that their service is good or bad enough. But we at least want to give you basic information of how to respond to police when you're being contacted. At least that makes sure that you know how you're supposed to behave to dictate how that officer's supposed to behave and what they're going to do. You see what I'm saying? And we want to make. I want people to feel safe. You get pulled over by the cops, no big deal. Just the cops are doing their job. They're pulling people over. They're supposed to pull people over. We can't just roll around on the street all day and never pull people over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you got to justify that 40 hours.
What's the famous question you used to hear, Corey, all the time is, don't you have anything better to do?
Yeah, nothing better to do.
When they asked me that question, I'm thinking, well, if all I got to do is pull you over for a stop sign violation, I'm all right with that.
I'm all right.
What would you rather me doing? Would you rather me going to some murder, a domestic violence call, some woman got the mess beat out of her by her boyfriend or something? Which, I don't quite understand that question. You see what I'm saying? You should
Yeah.
be glad that officers, all they got to do is traffic enforcement at some time. Sometimes that's how it is, you know. But I want people to be comfortable about that, you know. And if there's something that citizens are not comfortable with police officers, let's get into that, because I want to change that. We need to change that.
We just get into it, and that's a good point. And so, you know, again, like and share and subscribe to us. Leave us a comment below. Leave us a comment on Facebook. Again, like Mike said, if there's something, you know, you want us to talk about, hit us up and leave a comment, and we'll work it into the program. So this is something we, like I said, we want, you know, everybody to be a part of, because it takes all of us to change things. And all this violence and people getting hurt and killed on traffic stops, it's senseless. It doesn't need to be that way. And so, you know, Mike, thanks again for doing this channel with me. Looking forward to doing much more greater things with you. And stay calm. Stay calm. That's the acronym I want y'all to leave with: calm, comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. That's where you start the conversation at your dinner tables, staying calm. And I also have an ebook out on Amazon talking about just that. It's called Calm. Learn 4 actions to take during a traffic stop. It's on Amazon. So check it out. Only maybe a few pages, not long. It's more a little informational pamphlet, if you will, talking about, you know, staying calm. So thank you for joining us. Again, Mike, thank you. And we look forward to seeing you guys again and talking with you all again next week. So take care.
Peace out.